Friday, the 8th of March. That was when it all began. My name is Savage. Ray Savage. I work for Fact magazine in London. The magazine of private and confidential stories. I guess you've heard of it. Yeah, I guess you've heard of it. It was just 9:15. And I was starting an article for the April issue. Hello?
Ray?
Oh, hello, Joy.
Harvey wants to see you in his office.
Now?
Right now.
Okay, I'll be over. Harvey wants to see you in his office. It was as simple as that. Morning, Ray. Bob.
Hi, Ray.
A great man waiting for me?
In there. Hi, Mr. Savage.
Hi, tell me. Joy, any idea what it's all about?
Don't ask me. I only work here.
We'll need this picture blown up, spit it out, and save this page for the feature spot. Oh, hello, Ray. Come in. Get it lined up.
Yes, Mr. Harvey.
And let me see it when it's finished.
Morning, Ray. Oh, hi. You wanted me, Harvey?
That's right. Got a job for you.
Where's the corpse?
Gal.
That much I can tell.
Bright boy. This was taken while she was still breathing.
Where'd you get it?
From the police. Sergeant Miller. Copy of an original found among her possessions. Jane Hale, age 28, height 5'6", 120 pounds.
Look, the girl's dead. Her vital statistics are no longer of any interest.
You know the Flamingo Club?
Yeah, I've been there.
That was where she worked. Hat check girl. Ever seen her?
No, I can't say I did. But I haven't been to the Flamingo for quite a while.
Oh, well, it doesn't matter.
But look, why are we interested in this girl?
She committed suicide 3 days ago.
Well, how?
Gas heater in her apartment?
I didn't read anything about it.
Oh, you wouldn't. She only read it a couple of lines in the papers.
Okay, Harvey. What's the pitch?
I think I've got a new angle. Something we haven't done before. Something I want you to handle.
I'm listening.
Confessions of a school teacher. Remember that story, Ray?
Oh, of course.
And this one? I'm an ex-cop. That was pretty good, huh?
Sold 500,000 copies.
Exactly. It sold 500,000 copies. And why? Because it dealt with a human being. With all the frailty and impulse of a human being. Am I right?
Right.
Okay, that's what the public wants. That's what we're going to give them. This girl's going to be our next feature story.
But what did she do that was interesting enough to write about?
That's for you to find out. What went wrong in her life?
You're really sold on this.
Listen, Ray. This girl had every reason for doing what she did. She didn't turn on the gas because she thought it would be fun, or because there didn't happen to be anything worth watching on television that night. Something drove her to it. That's where you come in. Why did she do it?
And write a story around it?
Oh, why not? It's got all the ingredients. Pathos, drama, intensity. We'll play up the elements of the human spirit. Give it meaning. Work a little sex into it. Shouldn't be so difficult. I tell you, it'll sell.
You mean innocent girl gets caught up in the big city?
Fine.
Led astray by evil influences?
That's it, exactly what I want.
It won't work, Harvey.
Why not?
Because the girl was a nobody. A nobody who committed suicide. The public wouldn't be interested in her. The papers knew that when they rated her only a couple of lines.
You're wrong, Ray. If it's handled right, and I think you can handle it right, you've got a great little story.
I won't buy it, Harvey.
Listen, Jane Hale was 28 years old. What was she doing during those 28 years? What set of circumstances ganged up on her, drove her to kill herself?
Well, who knows? These kind of suicides, these kind of girls, they're a dime a dozen. They don't make headlines.
Create an interest. Step by step, word by word. Build up a picture of this girl's short, unhappy life. Find out the people she knew and the things she liked and write about them.
I'm sorry, Harvey. I can't share your enthusiasm.
Since when did I ask for enthusiasm? I want a story.
This is more of a reporter's job. Halloran can handle it much better than I can.
Halloran's got another assignment. He's busy.
Well, what about Finch?
Finch? Oh, he's busy too.
So it's in my lap.
It's all yours, Ray.
Okay, I'll stick with it for a couple of days. But if it isn't working out...
It's a deal. You can start right now.
Well, what else do we know about this girl, Jane Hale, apart from the fact that she worked at the Flamingo?
Very little. She arrived in town 3 months ago. Got herself this job at the Flamingo, lived in an apartment in Paddington. So far, the police haven't been able to trace any relatives. She's a complete unknown. That's why I picked her, Ray. We established right away that she's a woman of mystery.
Are the police willing to cooperate?
I've arranged that. Sergeant Miller, Paddington Division. He'll tell you all he can.
Right, I'll contact him.
Won't be necessary. He'll be in his office at 10:30.
You're pretty sure of yourself, Harvey.
I'm pretty sure of you. You're the man for this job. Now get all the pictures you can. Good luck, Ray.
Yeah. Thanks. I want some inside information about this.
Oh, is that the suicide brainchild?
Yeah. Why didn't Harvey give it to Halloran?
Oh, he tried. Halloran turned it down flat.
He did, eh? Well, what about Finch? Harvey said he was too busy to take it.
Finch turned it down, too.
So the old goat threw it at me, eh?
You should have done.
Oh, I never have won an argument with Harvey yet. Someday, maybe. Hey, how's about having dinner with me tonight?
You're going to be very, very busy.
With this? I'm not going to waste any sleep over that. Pick you up at 7.
Okay.
It was exactly 10:30, and there I was, with an assignment nobody else wanted.
This was taken after Jane Hale committed suicide.
I have one of these. Harvey gave me a copy. Gas poisoning, eh? Sure doesn't make him look pretty.
Jane Hale won't have to worry about her looks anymore.
Yeah. Are these her personal effects?
Yes. Oh, don't touch them. They haven't been checked in yet.
Lipstick, compact, rouge, billfold. And all the money she had.
That's all we found.
Comb, bobby pins, diary.
Not an entry in it.
Door keys, bracelet, and pencil.
Excuse me. Hello, Station Sergeant here.
I don't know what made me take that pencil. I know it was wrong, but it was already in my pocket.
I'll be in touch with you.
Could I see the autopsy report?
Yes. There it is.
The last vital statistics on Jane Hale. It says here she had a bruise behind her left ear.
The body was found near a chair. She must have struck her head in it as she fell.
I see you didn't manage to locate any relatives.
Not yet.
This man Winter, who identified the body, who's he?
A boyfriend?
Had he known her long?
4 or 5 weeks. He couldn't tell us much about her. He was with a couple of friends of his the night this happened. They verified this.
Doesn't tell much.
No. We're trying to locate the family, if she hasn't, through the normal channels.
I see. This boyfriend, Winter, where do I look for him?
He's manager of a trucking company on Payne Street.
Oh, thanks a lot, Sarge. You've been a great help.
It's a pleasure.
I was on my way to get the facts. The one thing in my favor was that I knew most people like to give information to reporters. They want to see their name in print, as long as it's spelled right.
Go right in.
What can I do for you? My name's Savage. Fact Magazine. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
What kind of questions?
About Jane Hale.
Is your magazine interested in her?
Yeah, we're thinking of running a feature article on her.
Why?
A human interest story.
I see. Well, I'll tell you what I can.
The police say that you identified the body.
That's right.
How well did you know Jane Hale?
We had a few dates. Took her to dinner, dancing.
When did you first meet her?
4 weeks ago.
How?
In her apartment.
Her apartment?
I had the room above hers. We used to meet on the stairs. Both pretty new in town. Got friendly.
I see. The day she committed suicide, did you talk to her then?
Only in the morning. I dropped by to see if she'd go with me to a movie that evening, but she said she was busy.
How'd she look?
What do you mean?
Well, like she was worried about something.
I didn't notice.
Did she ever tell you that something was worrying her?
No.
Did she ever talk to you about her personal affairs, her family?
She never mentioned them.
When did you learn she was dead?
Saturday morning. It was my day off. I'd been out late the night before. I was still in bed. I heard Mrs. Bassett, the landlady.
Oh, what did she say?
She was shouting and screaming.
Well, what did you do?
I put on a robe and ran downstairs. Jane was lying there. Mrs. Bassett had left the door open, but the room was still full of gas. I went in and turned it off and opened a window. I was going to carry Jane outside. I bent down and touched her arm, and she was dead. It's terrible the way she was lying there.
Any idea where she was living before she arrived in London?
Up north somewhere, I think.
Uh-huh. What makes you say that?
Oh, I don't know exactly. I just got the impression from something she said that she'd been up north.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm just about through, except, of course, for the photograph.
Photograph?
Sure, I'd like to take a picture of you.
Well, I don't know.
Now, look, we've got your permission first if we're going to use it.
All right.
How about letting me take one of you beside one of the trucks, huh?
Okay.
Thanks very much, Mr. Winter. And thanks for your help.
All right.
The Flamingo Club is situated on the west side of town. A mean, seedy little place, tucked away in a mean, seedy little street. The last place Jane Hale worked before her death. The place was closed when I got there. A barman was busy rearranging the dust before the customers started arriving. Freddie around?
Who wants it?
You'll know me. Go get him. Ah.
Hello, Mr. Savage.
Hello, Freddie.
Haven't seen you here for a long time. Raymond, give us a couple of drinks, then go and buy yourself a cup of tea. Not too early for you, is it?
Well, it is, but I'll have one just the same.
Good. How's business?
Oh.
You want to see me about something special?
You had a hat check girl here called Hale. Jane Hale.
Oh, yeah. No good asking me to fix you up, though. She's dead. Good ill.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm here.
I don't get it.
Well, my editor seems to think there's a story somewhere. I'm checking on her. Any ideas?
Ideas? What kind of ideas?
Why she killed herself.
Who knows what our dame bumps herself off?
How'd you happen to hire her?
Well, she came in here one night. Said she just got into town. She wanted a job. I needed another girl.
So you hired her?
Yeah, why not? She was a nice looker, you know, good build, easy smile, the kind the customers go for. And she said she'd done this kind of work before.
Did she say where?
In this business, you don't ask for references.
Did she make any special friends while she was here?
Not that I know of. Oh, she was pleasant enough, but she always kept herself to herself, you know.
Tell me, Freddie, how did she strike you?
Well, there was something funny about her. She always seemed sort of, jumpy, on edge, you know.
You mean scared?
Yeah, scared. Suppose you could call it that.
But how? In what way?
I don't know. Nothing you can put your finger on, really. Except once, a couple of nights after she first come in.
Well, what happened?
Well, she was taking time off from hat checking to help serve the tables. And there was a big fella sitting somewhere over there. And he kept watching her and watching her. You know. Finally, he calls her over. And he grabs her by the arm. And he tells her he's seen her somewhere before.
What's so unusual about that? It's the oldest line in the world.
Yeah, but this fella really meant it.
Did he say where?
No. Ooh, you should have seen her face, though.
Why?
Well, she went as white as a sheet. She was scared, real scared. Anyway, after a couple of minutes, she comes over to me and she says she's got a headache and she's feeling sick. So I told her she'd better go home.
Anything else, Freddie?
No, that's the lot, boy.
You tell the police this?
No.
Why not?
Look, I run a business. The police come in, they ask me questions. I answer yes or no. I cooperate. But I don't tell them anything they don't ask.
You don't jump around for him, eh?
I could do myself an injury that way.
Thanks for the drink, Freddie.
You're welcome.
It was 12:30, and what I'd learned of Jane Hale added up to nothing the customers would want to read about. The next stop was her apartment. The apartment building wasn't exactly the Ritz. I spoke to Mrs. Bassett, the landlady, and persuaded her to let me look over Jane Hale's room. This was it. The room in which Jane Hale chose to end her life. I explained to Mrs. Bassett that we wanted to do a story on Jane. She was anxious to talk.
That's where I found her, just where you're standing now.
When did she first arrive here?
Well, it was January. It was very cold.
Was she a good tenant?
Oh, yes, she was. Always paid her rent, never made any noise, always kept the place clean.
The day she died, did you see her at all?
Only in the morning. She went out to get some groceries.
Did you talk to her?
Well, I said good morning. She said good morning. Nothing more. She wasn't much of a one for talking.
While she was here, did she have many visitors?
I don't think so. Unless you could count Mr. Winter. He had the room above.
Any telephone calls, any letters?
None on my house phone. Unless she had someone to work, and of course I wouldn't know about that.
Did these belong to her?
Yes. The police checked them. They said I wasn't to move them till they let me know.
Mind if I have a look?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I really
Mrs.
shouldn't...
Bassett, my magazine needs your cooperation to publish a story on Jane Hale. And we'd like to run a paragraph or two about you, together with your picture.
Oh. All right.
The suitcases contain clothes. All of them cheap garments. The sort of clothes you might buy in any store. All, that is, except one hat. A chic little black job with silver trimming. The kind of hat a man thinks is ridiculous until he learns the price. It was obviously expensive. The label bore just one word. André. I didn't seem to be getting anywhere. The suitcase had a tag stuck on it. A label marked Waterloo Station. That didn't mean a thing. As I ran my hand over it, I suddenly got a hunch. My hunch paid off. Beneath the Waterloo label was a hotel sticker. The Thurston Hotel. Well, thank you very much, Mrs. Bassett, for your cooperation. How about taking that picture now? I'll send you some copies when I print them.
What was that?
Yes, with that. Come on, down the sunlight.
Oh, all right.
It was the first positive lead I had. I returned to my office to have the name of the hotel checked and to write up my report. The time was 1:25.
Southampton. The Thurston Hotel. None by that name in London, but we located one in Southampton.
Southampton, eh?
Yes.
What about that milliner, André? Did you get anything on that?
Drew a blank there. Plenty of hairdressers named Andre, but no milliner.
Well, keep checking. Give that to Harvey. Tell him I hope he enjoys reading it.
Hey, where are you going?
You said there's a Thurston Hotel in Southampton, didn't you?
As someone that didn't want this assignment, you're displaying an awful lot of enthusiasm.
Now, look, don't get me wrong, Joy. The sooner I can prove to Harvey that this job is a dead duck, the more I'm going to like it.
Ray.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This washes out our dinner date.
I've worked here long enough to get used to it.
Oh, I'm sorry, Joy, but, well, you know how it is.
Oh, I know. Okay. I'll take a rain check on it.
Thanks. Oh, look, get these pictures developed and print for me, will you?
Okay.
See you.
See you. Hey, print this up, will you?
It's a long drive from London to Southampton, so I decided to take the train. I was waiting for the 2 p.m. out of Waterloo. What I'd told Joy had been the truth. I did want to get through with this assignment. I had no enthusiasm for it. I didn't think it could lead anywhere. It was late afternoon when I arrived in Southampton. I took a taxi to the Thurston Hotel. Southampton is a seaport, with the narrow, dirty streets of a dockside town. It was in one of these mean little streets that I found the Thurston Hotel. It was in character with the street, the sort of place where you could strangle your old grandmother in the back room, when nobody would notice or even care.
I'm sorry, we're full up. There ain't a room in the place.
Yeah?
Had a busy run this week.
I know. And in a minute you're going to tell me that you might manage to find a room for me at double the price.
Wise guy, eh?
I don't want to rent a room. Ever seen that woman before?
You're a cop.
No?
What's your angle?
Look, I asked you a simple question. How's about a simple answer?
Supposing I tell you I don't feel talkative. Supposing I tell you I don't like guys who come snooping about in other people's business.
Then I'd say you weren't being very polite, and you were asking for trouble.
You've been forgetting your manners again, Charlie?
What can I do for you?
And who are you?
My name's Burstow. I manage this place.
Ray Savage, Fact Magazine. Your man here wasn't being very cooperative.
Charlie has a sweet nature, Hard.
Really? Well, Charlie will want to watch out. One of these days, somebody's going to kick him in his sweet nature.
That's good. Hey, Charlie. Well, maybe I can help you.
Maybe you can.
I'll take over, Charlie. Make yourself scarce.
Burstow would answer my questions. I knew his type, and he'd expect money for doing it. He knew I'd pay off. We're going to do a story on this girl. Do you know?
Sure, I know her. She was a good looker. Not the kind you forget.
She stayed here.
Yeah, December last year.
What name did she use?
Hale. Jane Hale. You want to see the register?
No. What else do you know about her?
She's working at the Toledo.
Toledo?
Yeah, a restaurant in town. Clip joint. But they do a floor show. This girl was in the leg line there.
Hmm. Singing, dancing?
You don't know the Toledo. They got 6 costumes, see? They need 6 girls to fill them. If you can squeeze into one of the costumes, you got the job. You didn't have to be able to sing or dance.
Have you any idea where Jane Hale came from?
No, this ain't Oxford. We don't ask people about their background. She arrived here before Christmas. That's all I know.
When did she leave?
January the 10th. It was a Thursday.
You're pretty quick with that date.
Yeah, I remember it well. I got reason to.
Well, I'd like to hear it.
You're with a magazine. Are they prepared to pay well for information?
If we use it, you'll be paid.
How much?
It depends. Depends on the information. What do you know, Burstow?
Would they pay, say 100?
They'll be fair. What do you know?
The day Jane Hale left this hotel, you asked me why I remember the date so well.
That's right.
Because, Mr. Savage, that was the day somebody tried to murder her.
Has anyone ever hit you over the head with a blackjack? That's how I felt right then. You say somebody tried to murder Jane Hale?
Right here in this hotel.
Well, how? Tell me about it.
Like I said, it was a Thursday. Must have been about midnight. Charlie came running to me. Said he heard shooting up on the first floor.
Jane Hale was on the first floor?
Yeah. I went up there. I took this along for company. Miss Hale's door was open. She was lying on the floor. Blood on her arm. For a minute, I thought she was dead. Just conked out, though.
What happened?
There was glass all over the floor. Someone took a shot at her from the fire escape outside the window. She was lucky. A slug nicked her arm. Looked worse than it was.
You phoned the police?
No.
Well, why not?
Because in this hotel, mister, the customer's always right. She wouldn't let me. Said everything was okay. Said she'd fallen against the window, broken it herself, cut her arm. She couldn't fool me. Somebody took a shot at her, Savage.
You're sure? Quite sure?
I told you. Charlie heard a shot, didn't I? Anyway, you only had to look at her to see if she was lying. And she was scared, too. I never seen anyone so scared.
When did she check out?
Half hour later, I put her in a taxi.
Did you hear what direction she gave the cab driver?
That's another thing. She just said, drive downtown. Didn't want me to hear where she was going. But she was scared, Savage. Plenty scared.
There it was again. Jane Hale was scared. Only this time it seemed she had a reason. Somebody had tried to kill her. But who and why? 5 minutes before, I had no real interest in Jane Hale. She was just an assignment I wanted to get through with. But now it was different. The whole picture was changing. I had a whole new set of questions to ask, and I thought I might find the answers at the Toledo, the restaurant she'd been working at. At the Toledo Club, I had already talked with the manager, waiters, hat check girl, but got no useful information. Now I hoped I might have better luck with the floor show girls, the girls Jane Hale had worked with. The girl who had known Jane best of all, the only real friend she'd made, wasn't there that evening. It was her day off, but they gave me her address. Well, would you mind telling me where she lives?
204 Park Street, basement.
Thank you very much. Good night, girls.
Good night.
It was after 9 when I arrived at Ruby Ames' apartment. I thumbed the buzzer and hoped that Ruby was having a quiet evening alone.
Yes,
Ruby Ames?
that's right.
My name's Savage, Ray Savage. They told me at the Toledo that I might find you here.
What do you want?
I'd like to ask you a few questions.
I don't know you, do I?
No.
Then what?
Look, it would be easier for me to explain if you'd ask me inside. It's about Jane Hale.
Oh, you're a friend of Jane.
Yeah, you might say that.
Come in.
Thanks.
I must look a mess.
Oh, you look fine.
I wasn't expecting anyone. Would you like some coffee? I just made some.
Oh, I'd love it. Do you mind if I take my coat off?
No, go ahead. Sugar?
Yes, please. 2.
So you're a friend of Jane's?
Well, that's not exactly the truth.
What do you mean?
I work for Fact magazine in London.
Fact magazine?
Yeah, we're thinking of running a story on Jane Hale.
A story on Jane in Fact magazine. She must be hitting the big time.
Not when I saw her.
No? But how is she? What's she doing?
She's dead.
Dead?
4 days ago.
Dead? Did they get the man yet?
What man?
The man who killed her.
I didn't say anybody killed her.
Isn't that what happened?
No, that isn't what happened. She committed suicide.
Suicide?
That's what they say.
But you think different.
I don't think anything yet. What's in your mind?
The way it happened. Could it have been murder?
I don't know. But I do know that somebody tried to murder Jane at the Thurston Hotel.
When was this?
January the 10th.
The 10th. That must have been the night she came round here.
She came here?
Just after she checked out of the Thurston. I knew she wasn't telling me the truth. You know, even
hold it. Take it slowly and from the beginning, huh?
I'd been out late. I was tired and pretty sound asleep. I don't know how long the buzzer had been ringing, but I finally heard it and went to open the door.
And Jane was there?
She was standing outside the door with a suitcase in each hand. Her arm was all bandaged up, and she was upset. I'd never seen her so upset before.
What did she say?
She asked me to put her up for the night. Said she had to leave the hotel in a hurry. I asked her why, but she wouldn't tell me. Just kept muttering that she had to get away.
What about her arm? What did she say about that?
She said she'd cut it on a broken window.
What did you do?
I made a bed up for her in here, on this sofa. When I got up the next morning, she'd gone. Taken her suitcases, too. I never heard from her again.
She went to London. She was running from something. But what?
I'm pretty sure it was a man.
Oh, what makes you say that?
Well, one night we were out together, just walking along the street. And suddenly she pulled me into a doorway. I thought she'd gone crazy or something. She said she'd recognized a man, and she didn't want him to see her. She was trembling all over, was white as a sheet. Whoever that man was, she was terrified of him.
Did she tell you anything else?
Once. She'd had a few drinks. She was a little high. She started crying. She said, someday they'll catch up with me. I've got to hide. Got to keep moving.
Anything more?
No.
So it wasn't just one man that she was frightened of? I mustn't let them catch up with me. That's what she said, wasn't it?
I never thought of that before. Oh, there was one other thing.
And what's that?
A man came here the day that I got up and Jane had gone.
Asking for Jane?
No, he said he was looking for somebody called McAllister, McKeon, something like that. But I thought he was snooping.
What was he like?
Oh, quite good looking, stocky, dark hair, dark eyes, like 100 other good looking guys.
Would you recognize him if you saw him again?
Sure I would.
Have you ever seen this before?
It belongs to Jane. I've seen her using it.
Yeah, it was in her purse. These initials, R-E-B. Any idea what they mean?
No.
Well, never mind. Just an idea. Forget it. Oh, one other thing. Did you know anything about her mail?
She never showed any letters to me.
How about phone calls? She ever mention those?
Some wolves from the Toledo used to call her at the Thurston, but she used to phone her mother a lot.
Her mother?
Yes, why? What's wrong?
The police couldn't trace any relatives. Where is her mother?
I don't know. Jane used to phone her about once a week. Her mother was sick, some kind of sanatorium she was in.
Can you remember the number she called?
No. It was long distance. I know that because once she used the whole phone.
Long distance, eh? It had been a long day, but a profitable one. There'd be time to catch a few hours' sleep before starting the same routine tomorrow morning. My first call would be the telephone exchange. The telephone exchange keeps a record of all long-distance calls. Jane Hale had used Ruby's house phone to call her mother. The urgency of trying to locate a suicide's mother had made the manager of the telephone exchange very cooperative. He supplied me with a list of long-distance calls made from that house phone between December and January, the time Jane had been in Southampton. I started out to call them all, but I was in luck. The fifth number I called turned out to be the Weybridge Sanatorium. They said yes, they did have a Mrs. Hale among their patients. Weybridge was 20 miles this side of London. but I decided to report to Harvey before going there. Harvey was surprised at the information I brought him.
So you think there's a chance this girl didn't commit suicide? That she was murdered?
I'm giving the idea of brain room.
Well, come along, Ray. Let's have it.
Well, the autopsy report showed that Jane Hale had a bruise behind her left ear. Now, that could have been caused when she became unconscious and fell against the leg of a chair. But maybe it didn't happen that way at all. Maybe she was hit first, and the gas was used afterwards.
Possible. Yes, it's possible. Sounds as if this may take a long time.
Oh, it depends on the breaks I get.
If it takes longer than a week, it won't make the April issue.
Then we keep it for May. This could be dynamite, Harvey. Can't you see? Fact magazine discovering that an ordinary suicide is an extraordinary murder.
Ray's right, Mr. Harvey. This could be absolutely sensational.
Okay, Ray, go right ahead. Take all the time you need. I told you were the man for this job. I think you're beginning to enjoy it.
Well, it looks as if I've brought myself a hatful of trouble, but yes, I'm beginning to enjoy it. Tell me, that milliner, André, any luck in tracing it yet?
No, not so far.
Well, keep checking. I'll check back myself later after I've seen Mrs. Hale.
The sanatorium, where is it?
Oh, about 20 miles out of town, near Weybridge.
Do you want a guide, or shall I lend you my maps?
Just outside Weybridge town, I found the sanatorium. A serene-looking place, with the smell of money in the air. The supervisor was friendly enough. He listened sympathetically as I explained that I wanted to see Mrs. Hale.
Yes, Mr. Savage, I think you may see Mrs. Hale. But you mustn't tell her what happened to her daughter. A doctor will take care of that. But you may see her.
Then it's okay if I ask her a few questions?
Well, that depends on her.
You mean she may refuse to talk to me?
Well, possibly. This may not be one of her good days.
I see. Say, is Mrs. Hale a patient or a prisoner?
Well, we have to take precautions with our mentally disturbed patients. I won't be long.
A few days ago, I hadn't expected to be in a sanatorium for mental patients. But here I was. And it was an expensive one. Mrs. Hale was living in surroundings far more costly than those of her daughter. Everything about Jane was poor. But here was wealth. Who was footing the bill? Where did the money come from? And could a woman with a mental disorder explain? Harvey had really thrown me an assignment. But I was beginning to like it. My eagerness for uncovering the facts was taking hold.
Oh, Mrs. Hale? Mrs. Hale, you have a visitor. He wants to talk to you about your daughter, Mrs. Hale. Your daughter, Jane. Come and sit down. That's right. I'll wait over there in the corner.
Mrs. Hale, I want to talk to you about Jane. You'd like to talk about your daughter, wouldn't you? She was a good daughter to you, Mrs. Hale.
A good girl. A good girl.
That's it, Mrs. Hale. You remember Jane, don't you? She helped you a lot. Mrs. Hale, can you remember the names of any of Jane's friends? Do you remember her talking about anyone in particular? A boyfriend? Or a man she was friendly with? Mrs. Hale, please try and talk to me about Jane. Mrs. Hale.
Oh, that's enough. I'm afraid she hasn't understood a word you've said. All right, nurse, take her back, thank you.
Yes, Doctor.
Is she always like that?
Well, there are times when she's able to understand what you say, but unfortunately, she usually behaves the way you saw her just now.
It's terrible.
Yes, it's very sad indeed. Oh, Mr. Savage, you wanted to ask me some questions.
Oh, yeah. Oh, may I?
Certainly.
you know her daughter, Jane?
Well, I met her just once when she brought her mother here.
Is that the girl?
Yes, that's her.
When did she bring her mother here?
Oh, about a year ago.
Where was the mother before?
In a public institution, so Miss Hale told me.
I guess it costs quite a lot to have somebody cared for in this sanatorium.
Quite a lot. You see, our patients get the very best attention.
Oh, naturally. Mr. Matthews, from what I've been able to find out about Jane Hale, where she lived, places she worked, her possessions, I know she was in very modest circumstances. She couldn't have kept her mother in a place like this for a week, let alone a year. Could you tell me who paid Mrs. Hale's bill?
We don't usually give out information of that kind.
Yeah, I know, but, well, this is a most unusual situation. I'm sure you'd like to assist in finding out exactly what happened to Jane Hale.
Oh, yes, I would. As a matter of fact, her daughter paid the bill.
You mean Jane?
Well, as far as we know, there are no other children or family. She paid well in advance, too. She sent us quite a large check last October.
Do you happen to know where she was living at that time?
Yes. I sent a personal note about her mother with the receipt. The envelope was addressed to General Delivery, Rexworth.
Rexworth?
That's right.
My visit to the sanatorium had been helpful. I'd learned two things. Jane Hale had been in the money in October, and at that time she was living in Rexworth. Just how important this was, and where it fitted into the general pattern, I couldn't tell. But I was on my way to Rexworth. Lucky for me, it was on the road back to London. I left Weybridge Sanatorium at 4:30. It was a fine day, so maybe I was too busy breathing in the fresh country air to pay much attention to the van parked down the road. The guy sitting in the passenger seat was small and sallow, and he wore glasses. But I was figuring about what time I'd arrive in Rexworth. Rexworth is a bright little city with a population of, maybe 30,000. Up to 6 years ago, it was a little village nobody had ever heard of, except maybe the few hundred people who lived there. Then they built a big paper mill close by, and Rexworth mushroomed into a busy commercial center. As soon as I arrived, I called up my office.
Hello, Fact Magazine.
Hello, Joy.
Ray, where are you?
I'm in Rexworth.
Rexworth?
That's what I said. R-E-X.
I heard you. What are you doing there? Who told you?
Who told me what?
Well, there's a milliner named Andre in Rexworth.
The wheel was turning full circle. The pieces were starting to fall into place. Joy had traced a milliner named Andre to Rexworth. Joy gave me the address I wanted too late for the shop to be open. It would have to wait until morning. I don't know what made me stop. I don't know what made me turn. Maybe I was letting my imagination run wild. But it looked like the same guy I'd seen waiting in the van outside the sanatorium. Now, I decided to worry about it later. I was in the right place. The label in Jane's hat was written the same as André's name on his sign. André was a haughty Frenchman, proud of his hats. I told him about Jane, but he only wanted to give me a good impression of himself.
Very pretty, but I have never seen this lady before.
Take another look. Maybe you've forgotten.
I'm sorry, I cannot help you.
Naturally, you can't remember the faces of all your customers, but the hat came from here. It had your label in it.
All our hats have the André label?
It was a cute little thing. It was this shape with sort of silver. It was exactly like that.
You say it was this shape?
Yes, exactly like that.
Like this, only smaller?
Yes. Do you know it?
It sounds like fleur d'argent.
No, but of course. A model was made last September.
Do you keep a record of the names and addresses of your past sales?
Indeed we do.
Well, then perhaps you can check back and see if you sold Jane Hale a hat. And maybe you can give me her address when she was here in Rexford.
Pardonnez-moi. Un moment. I will look up the order book. September. I said, didn't I? Ah, yes. September the 21st. Fleur d'argent.
How many of that number were made?
This is a model house. We never make more than 3 of one design, and even so, they each vary in some way.
And you sold one to Jane Hale, huh?
No, we did not. 2 were London buyers, and the third was sold right here in Rexworth to a Mr. Lloyd.
Mr.?
That is correct. And the hat was delivered to him at 21A Hampshire Court.
Where exactly is this Hampshire Court?
Miss Martin, will you explain to the gentleman?
That's the big modern building beyond the paper mill. You must have passed it on your way.
Thank you. Thanks very much. I'll be in touch with you again, Andre.
Andre. My foot.
Hampshire Court was easy to find. So was number 21A.
Well?
Mr. Lloyd?
That's right. What can I do for you?
I'm Ray Savage, Fact Magazine.
I don't talk to reporters.
This is different, Mr. Lloyd. This concerns Jane Hale.
Better come in. Then maybe you'll make some sense. All right, go ahead.
It's about Jane Hale.
That's what you said, Jane Hale. Who is this girl? Am I supposed to know her?
Maybe.
That her?
It is.
Doesn't mean a thing.
You've never seen her before?
Never. Why do you ask?
She's dead. I'm trying to trace anybody who might have known her.
Why do you come to me?
Ever heard of Andres?
Andres? No.
Are you sure, Mr. Lloyd? Try and be quite sure.
I said no, didn't I?
Andre tells me that he sold you a hat last year. A lady's hat.
Well, whoever he is, he's a liar. What would I do with the lady's hat?
Present, maybe? For a good-looking girl.
You got your facts confused.
Andre says that this particular hat was delivered to this address. He has your name in his records.
Oh, that hat. I'd forgotten about that. It was a favor for a friend of mine. He wanted a hat for his girl, couldn't pick it up himself. He's married. I said it'd be all right to send it here.
He was lying. He was clumsy, too. Showed he was lying. He became more amiable. Offered me a drink. I noticed another thing. His face was perspiring. I had him sweating. I had him worried for some reason. All he wanted was to get me out of there, believing what he told me. I played along. I waited across the street in my car. I'd started things popping, though I didn't know what. I gave him just 10 minutes. Sure enough, he appeared. I'd scared him into going to see somebody. He didn't know it, but he was going to have company. He didn't realize I was tailing him, so it was easy to stay close. Lloyd got out of his car and entered the door. When I saw where he'd gone, I knew I was right. He had been lying. Then it hit me. Those initials. R.E.B. Rexworth Escort Bureau. I didn't stay around to see Lloyd come out. I had to get back to London. I had things to do, things to think about. If I hadn't, maybe I'd have noticed the thin man on the corner. First of all, I wanted Joy to find out all she could about that escort bureau and start checking on Charles Lloyd. Maybe he had a criminal record. Then I had to get my latest report out for Harvey and run over it with him. He had points to make, items to change. It was late afternoon before I was through. I hadn't realized just how tired I was. Joy promised to pick up her rain check on my dinner invitation. I decided to get a little rest and see her later. I arrived at my apartment at 5:30. I had closed the door before I remembered something. When I'd left my apartment, the blinds hadn't been down. I remembered too late.
They're marking. No good if you're marking.
I could hear their voices, but they were far away. It seemed like
Like a black pit was opening to draw me down. A black pit with sides I couldn't climb.
I remembered a face. The thin man with glasses. And I remembered a sound. A sound like the hiss of escaping gas. What happened then, I was in no condition to know. But Joy told me about it later. It was just after 6 o'clock when she arrived at my apartment. I was lucky. I'd given her the key. Fresh air never smelled so good as it did right at that moment. And Joy's timely entrance was a gift out of the blue.
Ray, come to the chair.
I gotta sit down for a minute.
What happened, Ray?
Oh, there were 3 guys waiting for me when I got home. They jumped me. One of them slugged me.
Did you see what they looked like?
I recognized one of them. A thin guy with glasses. Hope I get a chance to recognize him again.
Ray, this whole setup. Closed window, the gas cooker.
Exactly what happened to Jane Hale. They're not very original.
Well, it would have worked if I hadn't come at the right time.
Well, you can say that again. What a break for me you insisted on cooking dinner for us here tonight.
Well, I thought a quiet evening at home was what you needed.
Yeah, that's what those 3 guys thought, too.
But why? Why, Ray?
It's all connected with my checking on Jane Hale. They just don't want me to do it. I think the air in here is safe enough for a cigarette.
I'll get you one of mine.
Good girl.
Oh, by the way, Ray, that information you wanted. It came through at the office just after you'd left.
All right, let's have it.
But, Ray, you're in no condition to...
Look, somebody's trying to murder me. I gotta find out why.
All right. Well, first of all, the Escort Bureau.
Yeah, well, what about it?
Well, apparently, it's a legitimate outfit opened 2 years ago.
What exactly do they escort?
They arrange escorted guide tours, mostly tourists.
They do anything else?
Yes, they send hostesses to private parties.
Oh, Jane Hale would fit into a setup like that.
Oh, it's strictly on the up and up. Apparently, the girls only go to the best parties, dinner parties or club parties.
What about Charles Lloyd?
Oh, he owns the bureau.
He owns it, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else about him?
No, couldn't find out anything else. He doesn't seem to have a record, but he made headlines in the Rexworth newspapers last October.
October? How did he manage to do that, huh?
Well, he was questioned in connection with the disappearance of Edgar Drew.
Edgar Drew?
Mm-hmm. Edgar Drew was the shipping manager of the paper mill.
Yeah? Well, go on.
Well, he left his home one night last October and didn't return. Oh, the newspapers made a big story about it. Don't you remember?
Yeah, I do remember, yeah. Well, where does Lloyd fit into all this?
Well, the police wanted to question everyone who knew Drew. Apparently, Lloyd knew him. Just routine stuff. Hey, Ray, what's wrong?
Nothing's wrong, honey. Everything's right. At last, things are beginning to make sense.
Oh, maybe for you.
Come on, let's get back to the office. We got things to do. Back at the office. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for. Here it is.
Wow. The report on the Edgar Drew case. What does this have to do with Jane Hale?
Read it.
Police today were continuing their search for Edgar Drew, shipping manager for the Rexworth paper mill, who disappeared from his home last night.
Go on.
The police have not ruled out the possibility of violence and are anxious to question a young woman seen with Drew last night. The woman described by witnesses as being of average height, slim, blonde, and attractive.
Jane Hale.
Oh, it could fit a lot of people. It doesn't.
Look at the date.
October the 14th.
October. The same month that Jane Hale sent a large check to the Weybridge Sanatorium. Where did she get that kind of money?
What are you thinking, Ray?
I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I think that the escort bureau is a front. But for what? I don't know.
What about Jane Hale?
Well, she and Drew and Lloyd were all tied up in some kind of deal.
But Ray, this is a...
Now, wait a minute, listen. Let's assume that Lloyd did have something to do with Drew's disappearance. But for his plan to succeed, he needed a decoy. A girl.
Jane Hale?
Jane Hale. Lloyd hired Jane Hale for the escort bureau. He found out all about her background, her lack of money, her bad need of money for her mother. He decided to use her, so he flattered her.
Bought her hat?
Right. Jane did her part in the job. It had something to do with Drew, and she received a large sum of money.
What happened then?
I don't know. But for the next few months, Jane was always on the run. From town to town, from job to job. Always scared, always running. And all the time, somebody whom she knew was out to kill her was getting closer.
What about Edgar Drew? What happened to him?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. But he's never been found. He's still missing.
You know, Ray, you could be right. But at the moment, you don't have enough real evidence to support your theory.
Not yet, I don't.
Hey.
But a visit to Lloyd's apartment will do for a start.
But that's in Rexworth and it's late.
I can't think of a better time. You know, love, the best time for a reporter is now.
How about a little thing called dinner?
Oh, I'll pick up a sandwich on the way.
We'll pick up a sandwich. I'm coming with you.
Oh, I don't think you should.
Objection overruled.
Okay.
Ray, don't you think you ought to call the police?
Not now. Look, honey, I've got a personal grievance. I called Lloyd's apartment first. I was in luck. There was no reply. He was out. I parked the car across the street and made Joey wait in it. There was no answer, which was what I wanted. A chance to look around, alone. I'd taken some skeleton keys from the office and was hoping luck was with me. I didn't want to break in if I could avoid it. I thought he'd keep some of his private papers at home. I had to work fast, and I had to be neat. I didn't want Lloyd to suspect anyone had been snooping. I was about halfway through when I heard a sound. Someone was coming. I had maybe 5 seconds to decide where I might hide. I chose the kitchen. It was Lloyd, and he was alone. But he was pouring 2 drinks, so he was expecting someone. This wasn't going to be a quiet night for me. Of that I was certain.
Anyone see you?
How many people use the back stairs? Lloyd, I brought you a list of all the equipment I want you to move.
Still don't like it. Why can't we leave the factory where it is? Why move it?
I told you why. That reporter.
He's been taken care of.
Yeah, and he may have started something. We can't take any risks.
But we're all ready.
I said move it.
Okay, Mr. Gillard.
How about a drink?
I'd learned one thing. I had them worried. I knew something else, too. The man named Gillard, the man I couldn't see, was a big wheel. By the way he gave orders, he was the boss. I was wishing I could get a look at his face, but I didn't see how. Not without getting my ears shut off. If he'd only leaned forward a couple of inches, just a couple of lousy inches.
I'll get some ice for you, Mr. Gillard.
No, it's fine the way it is.
We'll have to move that stuff slowly. A little bit at a time.
I'll look at the plans tomorrow.
I couldn't place where, but Gillard's voice seemed familiar.
Give me the package.
Wait a minute. I'll go with you. I've got to tell the boys.
I didn't understand what they were talking about. All I knew was that they were leaving, and I was going to tag along. Lucky break for me, they were using the back stairway. I had to give them a few seconds start. I couldn't risk them seeing me now. Lloyd had come out to the street alone. Gillard must have had his car parked in the back. It was too bad we couldn't take time out to look for Gillard. But we had to stay with Lloyd. Somehow I knew where he would lead us. My hunch proved right. It was easy for Lloyd. He just unlocked the door and walked in. For us, it wouldn't be so simple. The door was locked and there was no light coming from the small window at the side. Where was Lloyd?
You better stay out of here.
Why?
Maybe a rough party.
Oh, you should see my muscles.
You will. It didn't seem that anyone had heard our unconventional entrance. There was a light behind a door, and Joy and I walked over to it. I didn't know just what I expected to find behind that door. But I know one thing. Even in my wildest imagination, I couldn't have dreamed up the scene that met my eyes. The thin man with glasses I'd seen before, outside the Weybridge Sanatorium. On one side was a big fellow, with what looked like a miniature cannon in his hand. I didn't know him. But it was Lloyd who really held my attention. Lloyd and that bag he was filling with crisp, clean, crackling, freshly printed bills. The jigsaw was beginning to fit together at last. The Escort Bureau was a cover-up for a gang of counterfeiters, and the boxes in the corner gave me the link to Edgar Drew. Edgar Drew, shipping manager with the Rexworth paper mills.
I still don't see why we have to pull out. We got a nice setup here. What's the beef?
Mr. Gillard says we move, we move.
But why?
Oh, maybe you think you need the exercise, Joe.
Yo, a little hard work wouldn't hurt you any.
Look, you got your job to do, I got mine. Knock it off, you two. We got to strip this place ready for loading.
What about the presses? What are we going to do with them?
Take it apart, move it a little bit at a time.
I was suddenly remembering a lot of things. The flood of counterfeit notes which had been worrying the police for several months. And the government contract with Rexworth Mills for banknote paper. I knew what I had to do.
Go out quietly and phone the police.
It's very hard.
Look, do what I tell you. Phone the police.
Okay.
The gun in my hand gave me all the confidence I needed. The big guy, the guy with the cannon, he saw me first.
All right, just hold it. Right there.
Okay.
That was how it happened. A few brief seconds, and the party was over. Get over there.
Wrap it up. I ain't giving no trouble.
I said get over there. One dead, the other on the way out. Where's Gillard?
Gillard?
Yeah, Gillard. The guy Lloyd took his orders from. Where is he?
I don't know anything about him.
He gave the orders, didn't he?
Yeah, but I never saw him, never knew who he was. None of us did. Lloyd here tell us what to do.
You're lying.
Ah, lay off. He's telling the truth. The only guy that got the Gillard was Lloyd. Why don't you ask him?
Where'd you get hold of that stuff?
Look, mister, I've lost about 2 quarts of blood. I got to get to a doctor.
You'll get a doctor when I get my questions answered. Where'd you get hold of that paper?
Ah, you tell him, Johnson. We're all washed up anyway.
This load of banknote paper leaves the moles every week. We got a small box for each trip.
How'd you manage that?
Edgar Drew, shipping manager at the paper mill, was in Gillard's payroll.
Where's Drew now?
Well, he came in one night wanting to quit. He's down at the bottom of the lake wearing concrete ankle socks.
What had Jane Hale got to do with a setup like this?
She didn't know anything about the setup. Lloyd was to train her in his own way. Takes time.
Go on.
They needed her for the outfit. Hired her for the escort bureau. They wanted a girl who was good looking but not too smart. Someone who could take orders without asking questions. Lloyd softened her up by giving her money. She needed money, took it. And that's where she made her big mistake.
Why?
They had to get rid of Drew, quick and quiet. Jane was to date him, bring him to a certain place. Well, she didn't want to do it, but, well, they reminded her of the money she took.
Yeah?
I can't. My arm. You tell him the rest, Johnson.
That's all. Jane did a job, and then Joe took over.
So Jane knew too much, eh?
She wanted no part of any rough stuff. They picked the wrong girl. She got scared. Plenty scared. She ran out. We were supposed to find her, but she kept getting away.
Who murdered her? I said who murdered her?
I didn't have anything to do with it.
Gillard took care of her personally. Now do I get to a doctor?
You get a doctor just as soon as the police get here.
The police took over, and I called Harvey. When I got to the office the next morning, I was greeted by a very enthusiastic boss.
It's a great story, Ray. A great story. What a break for Fact Magazine.
Yeah, what a break.
I'm having a special issue set up. We'll hit the newsstands tomorrow, and I'll bet there isn't a magazine left in an hour.
I let Harvey ramble on. He was happy, and for an editor in this business, that's a luxury. But me, I was still thinking and wondering about Gillard.
The best they've seen.
What's that?
That counterfeiting plant. The police say it's the neatest they've seen.
They were just about to move. They started dismantling it when we arrived.
Oh, lucky you did. What's bothering you, Ray?
Gillard.
Oh, the police will find him.
I don't see how. Lloyd is dead. He was the only member of the mob who ever saw Gillard.
It's a pity you didn't get a look at him in Lloyd's flat.
Yes, it is.
You've told the police everything, Ray. You can do no more.
Yeah, but for me, this is an unfinished assignment.
Look, you didn't want to start this, and now you don't want to stop. Quit worrying. We've got a busy day ahead of us. What a story. Come along, Miss Groff. We've got work to do. Jennings, you better come with us.
I spent a long day getting set for the special edition. By 7 o'clock, I was glad to be home. Gillard was still on my mind. Suddenly the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Certainly not Ruby Ames, nervous and very scared.
Come on in, Miss Ames. Oh, what's happened to you, honey? You look frightened.
I'm sorry, Mr. Savage, but I am frightened.
Well, come on in. I'll get you a drink. Tell me all about it.
You may think I'm crazy, but ever since you came to see me that day, I've been watched and followed.
Oh, maybe it's your imagination.
No, it's not. I'm scared. Just like Jane Hale was. I didn't go to the police. I didn't want to get involved in anything, so I came to you.
How did you know where I lived?
I telephoned your office. You just left. I looked up your address in the telephone directory. Took a chance you might be here. I didn't take the time to phone. I was too frightened.
Well, I'm very glad you came. Go on.
Well, a man followed me today. I saw him several times, and he followed me to this building.
Are you sure?
Yes. And Mr. Savage, I recognized him.
Well, who is he?
He's the man that was snooping around the apartment the day that Jane ran out.
Now things are beginning to make sense. It must be Gillard, the man who killed Jane Hale.
So Jane was murdered. But what's it got to do with me?
Ruby, when you were out with Jane and she pulled you into a doorway, that time she thought somebody was following her, remember?
Yes.
Maybe he was the same man who went to your apartment the next day, the man who's following you now.
But how do I fit in?
Well, you weren't important then. Nobody was interested in Jane Hale. But when I started checking on her, then
Gillard realized that you could connect him with Jane.
I see.
When he learned that you were on your way to London, he was afraid that you were going to see me or the police. He's trying to stop you.
Now I know how Jane felt.
Oh, don't worry, honey. We'll figure some way out.
I hope so.
Here, have another drink. It'll steady your nerves. I was certain it was Gillard, and he knew I lived in this building. But I didn't think he'd still be hanging around. He'd feel sure the police had been called. I'd do that later, but first I had to get Ruby to a safe place. She was badly shaken. I decided to take Ruby to Joy's home, where she'd be with her family. Joy was willing to help, as always.
Don't do that again.
That's the man.
Take it easy. Just drive exactly where I tell you.
So that was Gillard, a man I heard in Lloyd's apartment, a man who had followed Ruby and killed Jane Hale. But I never expected him to be Thomas Winter, the manager of the trucking company. And by either name, he had us just where he wanted us. So you're Thomas Winter, and Gillard, the big boss, eh?
And you're the smart snooping reporter. Well, this is one scoop, my friend, you won't be handing in.
You're wanted for murder, Winter. Maybe you can talk your way out of the killing rap, but shooting us isn't going to help you any.
Who's wanted for murder? Lloyd's dead. And the rest know nothing about me. They've never even seen me. When I'm through with both of you, Gillard will no longer exist.
I was wondering where we were going and how long I could stall him. I've got to hand it to you, Winter. You've really got brains. Your trucking operation was a good cover-up for getting banknote paper and for supplying and shipping your counterfeiting equipment. You ran your escort bureau legitimately, except for finding and training the girls that you needed in your other setups.
I should have got you to write my biography.
I'd rather write your obituary. Too bad Jane Hale didn't work out for you. But that was smart, too. You hired an apartment in her building, dated her, found out exactly the right moment to kill her. Did that smart, too. Made it look like suicide. And, of course, established an alibi.
That's enough, bright boy. Keep your mouth shut and just drive. Drive over there and stop.
Maybe I shouldn't have taken a chance, but I was gambling for our lives. Okay, Gillard. It had started by Harvey throwing me an assignment I didn't want. Now I was the white-haired boy in the magazine world. Even the police department loved me. Thomas Winter, alias Gillard, would hang for the murder of Jane Hale. The rest of the gang will be old men before they see the outside world again. Guess that guy Harvey isn't such a fool after all. Ah. My next assignment, eh? Ask Joy for the confidential facts.